Welcome to Daddy Issues. Conversations with Dads. A podcast from Fathers and Families Center of Indianapolis, Indiana. So welcome to Daddy Issues. I'm Jason Acquisto. I'm joined by my co-host and president and CEO of Fathers and Families. It's Larry Smith. Hey, Larry.
Hey, Jason, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. How's it going for you? Okay?
Going very well. No major hiccups yet.
Obviously, the first thing that I like to ask about is how are the kids? How's it going? How's the family?
Well, I appreciate that. Kids are doing very well. Started back to school last week, and they were ready to go, and so that's going well.
Yeah,
And yours?
Good. He's thriving at the University of Louisville. And, it's crazy because you never know what to expect that first semester being away, quote unquote, on your own. And I didn't know what to expect, but it's good. Got a lot of pride and really happy for him. So doing well. It's our third episode of Daddy Issues. And we hope that we're bringing up a casual, conversational, yet practical approach to fathers and parents alike. This is put together by and made possible by the Fathers and Families Center. Do you want to tell a little bit at the top here about what the Fathers and Families Center does real quick?
Yeah, very quickly. This is our 30th anniversary. Over the course of that period, we've helped about 21,000 fathers in Marion County. Hope to expand out of Marion County / Indianapolis soon, but we help with educational skills, getting high school equivalency, with job skills, with connecting our clients to jobs. But most importantly, we help them repair and restore relationships, both with their children and with their children's mothers.
That's great work. We appreciate it and we support that. And as we talk about topics that are important to fathers and mothers and families, one thing that seems to be on everyone's mind, and for good reason, is mental health awareness, mental health issues. What can we understand better? When we grew up, we didn't understand about things that we know now. Things about behavior, the reasons why people do things. We know more. There's a real need to destigmatize behavior and feelings and the fact that you're getting mental health treatment. This is a topic that's important, we think, and we've brought a guest with us today. Craig Spinner, welcome to the show. Craig is a high school counselor at Noblesville High School. Prior to that, middle school counselor at Westfield Middle School. He's a former teacher, high school and middle school. He's also a mindfulness coach and consultant. He's got a podcast called Self-Care to Go. He is a good friend of mine for a long time, and he lives in Hamilton County with his wife and their two teenagers. Welcome to the podcast, Craig Spinner.
Thanks for having me.
Is all that true? Did I got that from your LinkedIn profile?
Yeah, okay. From my LinkedIn. Yeah, one teenager doesn't live with us anymore. He's
it's still his home.
Yeah.
You have a college freshman like I do. Yeah. And then you have a high school daughter as well. So we wanted to just dive right in and to give you just a jump off point to say, what are some of the most common challenges mental health wise that you see that are facing teenagers right now as a high school counselor?
Wow. When you sent me that question, I thought that's a show. I mean,
we can talk for a while.
Well, what are the common issues facing teenagers mental health wise? Well, I think of the buzzwords that I hear on a daily basis. You've obviously tapped into the first one, mental health, anxiety. I don't know if you mentioned bullying before, but I think when my day-to-day, at least from the high school realm, would really be more centered around self-management and coping skills. I think are the biggest thing I see facing teens 14 to 18. And it's interesting that we're doing this now because we could talk post-COVID and pre-COVID. You can't do a topic like this without referring to that.
Mm-hmm.
But if we didn't parse them out, I think those are the two biggest things: coping
Hmm.
skills, self-management, resilience. And anxiety has become the new. I tease with my colleagues. Anxiety has become the new ADHD, at least in my line of work, in terms of the buzzwords.
Hmm.
So
It used to be everyone was talking about ADHD, and now it's
anxiety.
anxiety. What kind of
Yeah,
anxiety do you have? What is self-management?
good question. As I said that, I felt like it was vague. So you hit that spot on. Just the ability for ourselves to regulate, to be okay, not always being okay,
Mm.
and to learn how to manage that, to traverse that. I think in terms of, I feel like I use the same metaphors over and over in my office because I feel like I triage a lot,
Mm.
and I equate it to, we've all at least seen or been to a beach. If you think of waves as our stress comes in different shapes and sizes. There's big waves, there's medium waves, and there's small waves, and we can't control those. There's always going to be high tide and there's always going to be low tide. What we can do is we can control how we wade through those waves. We can
Mm,
improve the skills of how we tread water or swim or kayak, whatever metaphor you want to use.
Mm.
So when you ask about self-management, I think it's easy to draw the metaphor of how do we traverse those waves? What can we get better at? And I think I mean, it's no secret, there's a massive stigma on mental health. And when you talk about dads, my gosh,
mm,
I get the unique experience of interacting with mothers and fathers, and traditionally speaking, mothers seem to be home more.
Mm.
So I mean, that's stereotypically who's most of the time speaking up for their kids, but there is a stark difference between the two. So I think I steered away from your
no,
questions.
and I feel like we could talk, freestyle. Maybe a better point of entry would be, what do you do on a regular basis in your job that gives you insight into,
Mm,
yeah, into what's happening with teenagers? And you're a high school counselor, although you
yeah.
have years of experience as a middle school counselor. Maybe you can talk about some of the things you do daily that gives you insight and how that looks.
I'm going on year 18 or 19 as a counselor, and I have like
Mm.
7 prior to that as a teacher. But, as a counselor, in the past 5 years, I would say, I've become a better listener.
Mm.
And I've realized that when I do less, I get more results. And so what I do on a day-to-day basis, if that was the question, just
Mhm.
what my job, like from a job
Yeah.
standpoint, yeah, people equate a lot of times what I do to helping kids get to college and do their schedule. And I've only been at the high school gig for, this is my second year. I am shocked at the amount of triaging that I do emotionally every day. And that is the amount of students that request to see me or come in on a whim to see me because of their own issues with stress management, self regulation, depression, anxiety, coping skills, all of that. And so, first and foremost, I'm a listener. I'm not there to solve their problems. I'm there to help them learn how to solve them themselves. I often ask, do you want me to listen or would you like some advice?
Mm.
Would you, I've gotten good at that over the years. I wish I knew then what I know now.
Mm,
And that just comes with swinging the bat and whiffing several times.
mm.
So, I mean, you never know what's coming in the door before school. I think the hot spots of my day are 20 minutes before the bell rings for the first period of the day, definitely the whole lunch block, and right before the end of the day for whatever reason.
This is Daddy Issues. We'll be right back after this short break.
Looking for ways to save on your energy bills? AES Indiana has you covered. From smart thermostats to home energy assessments, we offer simple solutions to keep your home comfortable and your costs down. AES can help you save money and energy with kits, tips, rebates, and more. Visit aesindiana.com/ways to save to learn more about how we can help you save money. AES Indiana, helping you discover real ways to save.
And now back to Daddy Issues.
So yeah, I think a large portion of my job is reactionary and helping those who need help self-regulating, quite honestly, or that don't know what the heck they want, but they know their brains are in a state of fight, flight, freeze, and so they're in the flight mode, and they find their way to me. And so I guess a lot of my day is trying to be a relationship builder and a connector and a trust builder
Mm.
so that these teenagers feel like they continually have a place to go. I've got nothing to sell them. I don't get paid on commission. My goal every day is to make sure that all students feel like I can be a resource to them and helpful.
I'd like to follow up on that a little bit. Obviously, you have a lot of experience working with the teens and the tweens. Curious, in your experience, what do you see as the key warning signs that a young person is really in need of some intervention?
Well, yeah, another loaded question. I mean, some traditional warning sign, need of intervention.
Everything from, hey, you really should go talk to somebody, to, this kid is in trouble of harming himself, herself,
Oh,
and
sure,
other
sure.
people.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a huge piece of what I do, but it does come up often enough, and that's self-harm and suicide assessment. And so high schoolers are very, and I'll answer the question, but high schoolers are very astute at knowing that if they come to me and they reveal the specific things that tip me off, I have an obligation to intervene. So, if a student expresses that they want to be a harm to themselves or others, obviously that's a pretty concrete thing. Drop in grades, I mean that happens a lot between 8th and ninth grade period, but just a different pattern in socialization, change of friends, weight loss, increased irritability. And I'm not talking about your typical. We all joke about how hard it is to raise teenagers. I'm talking about drastically different. My kid behaved this way, and now I don't even know who he or she is. It's just completely different. Refusal or resistance attending school is a huge problem, I think, everywhere, let alone Hamilton County. People refer to us as a bubble, but I think that's happening. We're no different than anywhere across the nation. I just think there's more of that going on, and COVID didn't help that. More reclusiveness, like less socialization, like some of that with the the kids push away in terms of when they grow up, and definitely when you get into those middle school, adolescent and pre-adolescent years. But I'm talking about major 180s.
Interesting. That's it. Very, very important. And then just a quick follow up in terms of parents. What are some of the key do's and don'ts? So assume that we've uncovered a problem, not a major issue, not I'm not going to harm myself or others, but it's clear that you need to have some kind of psychological intervention. What are the do's and don'ts from a parental standpoint? We have everyone from helicopter parents like me to those who are sort of hands off.
Some do's and don'ts. Well, first of all, if there was a book written on this, we wouldn't be having this podcast. And so a lot of this is trial and error. But I think it boils down to losing our egos as parents, which is very difficult to do, myself included, and keeping the message consistent. You talk about don'ts. I guess a don't would be, we're not there to be their best friend. We're not there to be their friend. And I don't mean that to sound harsh. It doesn't mean you can't love them and hug them and have physical affection with your kids and all that, but you're not their friend. And because you're there to instill responsibility. You're there to love them unconditionally. And sometimes loving them unconditionally means saying and doing very difficult things. And so I see a lot of inconsistency, whether it's single parenting or dual parenting or teen parent, whether divorce is in the situation, whether it's two intact parents, in the home. I never really have the dots connected. I'm just a piece of the puzzle at school, but I definitely have a unique vantage point that is unemotionally attached to these kids. So I'm at an advantage when it comes to helping them. Dues would be finding a way to understand that sometimes things aren't going to go the way you wanted that you dreamed them of going. And I think that's a big aha as a dad myself. And I'm speaking personally now, not professionally, but you know, I'm 50. When I was 23 and my wife and I married, we all had ideas and thoughts about and dreams of what our kids would grow up and be and how things would be and how we would parent and how we wouldn't parent.
Mhm.
But that's not always how they go. And that doesn't mean that it's our fault.
This is Daddy Issues. We'll be right back after this short break. And now back to Daddy Issues.
And I think it's taken a lot of my lifetime to realize that the mistakes that I've made, today included, as a parent, aren't because I'm not a good parent. I just have to not take things so personally. And that's really hard when you're talking about your own kid. And if we can do that, we can become more patient as adults and resilient, because kids have emotional antennas, man, like none other. Like they're at that at teenagehood, and they're still, that prefrontal cortex isn't completely formed yet. So that sense of belonging and that me, you know, we tell our kids, just get over it. If you just, you know, you just like, that works sometimes, right? But you don't have, and I'm not suggesting we baby and coddle our kids, but just being able to ebb and flow and dropping your ego and giving our kids a consistent message with unconditional love. And sometimes that's, you know, oftentimes we parent the way we were parented, or sometimes we parent in a way that's different than the way we were parented. We didn't like the way we were parented, so we said, we're not going to do it that way. So we do it a different way. And sometimes that doesn't work. Like, our kids didn't come to us with a set of directions and a code that we can decipher. And where I see mistakes happening from a professional standpoint are when parents, especially fathers, because I think it's a stereotypical instinct of fathers to be, you know, the tough one. They just need to get over it and tough love and this and that and the other. It's not my job to help parents parent. I don't step in that arena unless I'm asked. I never tell a parent how to parent because I'm not there. I only get part of the story. So I'll park the bus there. Did I come close to answering your question?
No, we're done here. Yeah, that's great stuff. I wrote down several things as you were talking. One of those was, you know, losing our egos as parents. Man, that's a tough one, right?
So hard.
Yeah. But I also wrote down, let yourself off the hook, because we got to walk that fine line of expecting too much of ourselves or thinking that we're, you know, Mr. Everything because I'm the dad. So you got to do both of those on a daily, right? And the other thing I thought is that, you know, it never goes the way you thought it would. And yeah, even if you don't think it's going to be perfect, we all had ideas about, I want to parent better than my parents, or different, or I'll never do that. I mean, some days, many days, I'm a mess. I mean, I'm a complete mess. No conception. What am I doing? And my son's already 19, right? And I'm thinking, well, how do I do it? But that's where we got to let ourselves off the hook.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, we talk a lot about at school, especially when COVID hit, as counselors, there's 11 of us in our department. And we talk about helping our teachers be better teachers, so emotionally, so that they can better help our students. And so that's where our podcast came in. You mentioned earlier is we wanted to offer something to our teachers that they could tap into, because they're human and struggling, and you can imagine, you know, the hamster wheel that they're on every day. So
the name of that podcast is Self-Care to Go. Plug that podcast. Yeah. It's available wherever you get podcasts.
Wherever you get your podcasts. Okay. Yes.
Self-Care to
just
Go.
Like this one. But, you know, I guess that's another, Larry, you asked, you know, what what do's and don'ts is learning how to take care of yourself
Hmm.
and destigmatizing that, man, and whatever that is for you, whether that's working out, whether that's having a routine where you can go and clear your mind and be better from the neck up. We spend so much time thinking about taking care of our bodies from the neck down, and the brain is just a mental muscle. And if we don't take care of it, it doesn't
Hmm.
grow. And so that could be working out, that could be going, reading, that can be playing an instrument. I mean, that could be going to, a yoga class, that could be learning meditation, something, whatever that is. But having a routine that keeps your headspace in a place that allows you to show up for your own kids day in and day out, so that when things are tough and we notice that we're dysregulated as an adult, that we can get ourselves back on track so we can be good role models for our kids that often are dysregulated.
Yeah, I mean, I really like what you said about, letting ourselves off the hook and so on. And, I've been a parent a very long time. I was a teenage parent. And so my older daughter is 35, she'll be 36 in March, married. It's given me a couple of grandkids. And then I have a 17-year-old daughter and a 15-year-old son. So, there's quite a...
Yeah, man, that's busy work.
Yes, spread there. And so I can remember, in particular, since I was so young as a father, having the highest aspirations and wanting to be the perfect parent. And as you said before, not making the same mistakes that I had experienced as a child and so on. And now, the bar is substantially lower. It's like, well, just don't screw them up, right?
Just keep them alive. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I can see the difference between how I was having, because I was so young. There's only about a 17-year difference between my older daughter and me, and so feeling the need to really have to be dominant and prove that I'm the dad and so on. Whereas today, she teases me about the two younger ones, and not in some ways not really teasing. It's like you're not the same dad. They just get away with everything from her perspective, and I think she's certainly mostly correct in that assessment. So
You had a lot to prove at that time as
Yes.
a teenage dad. Sure.
yes.
Well, and her adult self is very much more intellectually mature than her teenage self when you parented her, and so she's aware of more now than she was. And so maybe it wasn't that they get away with more; it's just that she understands parenting now, and she didn't then, because she
Oh,
was the
wow.
receiver of your parenting. You think about inner child theory. There's that whole aspect of counseling, but her 17-year-old self is what was talking to her.
Mhm.
Right.
We all still have a 17-year-old self in there.
We
don't
do. We
Yeah.
do.
Indeed.
We don't
do.
let mine out very easy. But.
Yeah.
This has been part one of our conversation with Craig Spinner, high school counselor at Noblesville High School. Join us for the second half of our conversation coming up in the next episode of Daddy Issues. Be sure to connect with us on social media. Feel free to email us, dads@thedaddyissuespodcast.com. Daddy Issues is a podcast from the Fathers and Family Center of Indianapolis, Indiana. To learn more about the programs of Fathers and Family Center, visit fathersandfamilycenter.org.